Hi, I'm Avery Davidson. Thank you for joining us for This Week in Louisiana Agriculture, the only TV show bringing Louisiana farmers and consumers together every week. My partner, Kristen Oakes White, is off this week. You know the slogan, beef. It's what's for dinner. It can also be what's for lunch or breakfast, but in St. Landry Parish, there is only one way to determine who has the best beef, and that's with a beef cook-off. As Twila's Neil Melanson shows us, with live music, rides, and goodies like beef bacon and beef boudin, which he did not bring back, there really was something for everyone.
The locals here say pass a good time for festivals just like this one, the St. Landry Parish Beef Cook-Off. It's got music, games for kids, and of course, food galore. The event got started 33 years ago to promote beef production in the area. Organizer Daniel Lyons says you might not think of beef and Cajun food together, but it's the true home of Cajun food.
If you want to truly taste Louisiana food, in my opinion, I tell that to people I travel all over, and I tell that to people, come to Lafayette, Louisiana. And they talk about New Orleans, but this is the area where the true Cajun Louisiana cooking takes place.
Everybody here is just a home cooks.
Jackie Foles came to the first cook-off in 1983 and says she's seen this crowd grow and grow, especially among the younger people, and that's what keeps her coming back year after year, the fellowship.
It's a big family oriented, like I said, you know everybody, you get to visit and catch up, and it's just a fun time for everybody.
Of course, what draws everybody is the food. This beef bacon is a surprising new addition with a taste very similar to its pork counterpart. It's that kind of thing that drew Michael Harden, who's here for the first time. He says he can't believe everything the event has to offer.
I mean, it's just the aroma coming from all over the place, man. So, but I'm enjoying it, man, having a good time. I'm helping my co-worker here, Jason.
Jason is one of the contestants here, working hard to get everything ready for judging at noon. Fortunately, he has some help from some professional taste testers.
Are you guys ready to try this beef?
Oh, yes, sir.
Everyone here uses the Cajun Trinity, of course, onion, celery, and bell peppers. They've also got secret ingredients that make it tough for the judges to decide. I got a chance to go backstage to see what was really cooking with St. Landry Parish Cattlemen's president, Jay Guidry. He's not only one of the organizers, but gave me a taste of his own farm products.
What gave you the idea to come up with beef boudin?
Well, Mr. Daniel had been saying that we needed to have some, and some others have cooked it over the years, and we just decided to give it a try. Been working on it for a couple of years.
Well, I think you've hit on a winner here for sure, Jay. Thank you very much for having me here. I don't know how the judges are going to do it because they have a big task ahead of them. Each one of these has its own delicious flavor. Fortunately, there's enough categories to cover all of it. But enough of that. I'm going to go eat while I wish I could get you guys to taste this through the camera because you'd absolutely love it. Now let me tell you guys, it may have looked like a small affair confined to St. Landry Parish, but that was some of the best cooking I've ever had. And it's all part of the culture in Louisiana where people in small kitchens and backyards are turning out some of the finest food in the world. And Avery, you know that to be true. I mean, South Louisiana cooking, these moms and pops could cook in the finest restaurants worldwide.
And the hospitality that Daniel Lyons and that group show.
Don't forget Genevieve.
No, I can't forget Genevieve. I'm sorry, Genevieve, because last time I went, you took care of Luke the entire time. But, I mean, the hospitality they show is just unmatched by
Second
anyone.
to none. And it's that atmosphere. It makes the food taste better, I'm convinced. And speaking of that, we had some gratitude showed to us by one of our watchers out there. When I went to Stony Point Farms the other week there in Washington Parish, the peppers that they make for the hot sauce turns into this. It's the General's hot sauce, and it's grenade shaped.
I was about to say, that is the best packaging I've ever seen. In fact, if my father-in-law sees this, he's getting some.
Well, and some of their, it's not just their packaging, it's their promotions, because one of the things they say is it comes from our farms in Louisiana. It's bottled in South Carolina, I believe, and through Smoke Hall Farms here in Baton Rouge. But anyway, this is 90% pepper sauce.
Ooh.
Compared to 20%. So this dead red is not a joke. This is some real hardcore stuff, not dissimilar from a grenade.
Well, we'll have to bust that out and try it. I'm looking forward to tasting it. Thank you very much, Neil
And
Melanson.
thank you, the General's Hot Sauce. We appreciate the gift pack you sent us.
Always awesome. Thanks. The Southern University Ag Center recently hosted its 75th annual livestock show. More than 150 4-H and FFA members from across the state traveled to Baton Rouge to exhibit their animals. As Twila's Carl Wiggers shows us, children also came by the busload to get up close and personal with chickens, goats, and everything else they sing about from Old MacDonald's farm.
Children lead their prized animals into the ring at the Southern Ag Center's Maurice A. Edmond Arena.
We get kids from all across the state who come here to exhibit, and they have a good time.
One of those kids is Kelsey Bruce, whose father started coming to this very show 20 years ago. Dr. Melian Patan says that's possible because this livestock show is different than most.
Kids can start exhibiting as early as age 7, and that's a little different from some of the other state shows.
We come down here to Baton Rouge to the Southern Livestock Show for 2 reasons. Number one, it enables our kids who are 7 and 8 to come participate because they're not old enough to participate in the LSU show yet. The other thing that I like about coming to this show, it's a little bit smaller, and so for the kids starting out that don't have a lot of experience, they can come here, make sure that they get in the ring, get their animals showed, and it's not as filled up as what the classes are at LSU.
This event was designed to give the youth of Louisiana an opportunity to show their leadership skills by using animals as the tool. So they raise these animals most times for a year or more.
I feed them and water them most of the time and groom them some. The hardest part about it is the pigs, because they won't stay still when you bathe them and stuff like that.
While Kelsey is busy bathing her pigs and brushing her steer, her dad knows that she's leaving this barn with much more than some dirt on her boots.
It teaches teamwork because I got a son and a daughter, so they learn to work together, they learn teamwork. They also learn some communication skills, having to interact with the judge and talk about their animals when they ask questions and all. So there are things that's learned in the livestock program, just not those, that carry on throughout the rest of their life.
Another thing that makes this show different is that those inside the rings aren't the only ones here getting to experience agriculture. Many of these kids are in a different looking classroom today.
It's so much more than just the livestock show. We realize that a lot of the youth who come to the livestock show don't necessarily have an opportunity to see traditional farm animals. They're not really exposed to agriculture. So what we try to do is give them a holistic view of agriculture. We have a station that features farm animals. We have a petting zoo because quite a few of them have never had an opportunity to touch a real animal outside of a cat or dog.
This year they had more than 300 total market animals on site, including beef and dairy cattle, broiler chickens, lambs, goats, and hogs. To learn more about how to get involved in 4-H or FFA, or to find out about the next events that Southern Ag Center will be hosting, head over to our website at twilatv.org. And Avery, it's really neat to see Kelsey and to see how they're getting started at such a young age. She's 7 years old, and she's taking care of her own animals and showing them, and it's gonna, I don't even think she understands how much she's gonna be ahead of the game, benefit from having these skills that she's learning in the arena right now with her dad and showing these animals.
It's a lot of learning responsibility, and you and I always talk about on and off camera about how folks in 4-H, folks in FFA, they're so well spoken, they're so ahead of the game, they're so mature for their age, and I think this is really what fosters it.
They are, and Lance mentioned something really neat to me, and I never even thought about it, but in the ring, they have to talk to the judges at times when the judge asks questions about their animal, and that teaches, I mean, you're talking about a 7-year-old talking to a grown man or a grown woman about their animal and being able to articulate things, and that was something I never thought about, but that's a part of it too, speaking and being able to communicate things. That's pretty impressive.
Maybe you and I need to start showing animals. We'd be able to speak a heck of a lot better on this set.
It's worth a shot.
All right, thank you very much, Carl Wiggers. Rain remains in the forecast for almost all of the state. This after a February which was the wettest on record for some parts of Louisiana. According to the USDA's National Agricultural Statistics Service, there were only 2 days last week in which the weather was good enough for farmers to do work in their fields. Between falling water, rising floodwaters, and roller coaster temperatures, it's getting really hard for farmers to get the state's corn crop into the ground. This is not video from the cockpit of a boat. This is Scott Wiggers driving his tractor through his cornfield in Franklin Parish.
This is a 100-acre field here that's obviously we're not going to farm for a while.
The Beff River is in flood at 54.8 feet on this day, cresting at 57.
Probably have 75 acres of farmland underwater, affecting probably 500 at this time.
Instead of fetching equipment with his tractor, Wiggers would prefer to be planting corn.
You can see the sweet corn popping up right here.
The same can be said for Donald Scheck-Snyder in West Baton Rouge Parish. For him, the problem is not water rising from a river, but rain falling from the clouds above.
Well, you know, they have the chance of rain. I'm hoping we miss it so we can get out there.
This 3-acre field of sweet corn is all Scheck-Snyder has been able to plant so far.
This year has been wet. Normally we try to get in the field March, beginning of March, maybe the last day or two of February. It's been wet and a little bit cool so far this year.
You really need the ground temperature to hit 40 and stay above 40 degrees, but we also need to have it dry enough where we can get in there and do our planting.
Louisiana Commissioner of Agriculture and Forestry, Dr. Mike Strain, says anything that delays this tractor from planting corn is a hit to Louisiana's rural economy.
We like to get in early. Remember, every day that we can plant early means that we can get a better price for our corn and our products, because we want to harvest before the rest of the country. We want to harvest when the actual stocks to use ratio, right? The amount that's on hand versus what we need, right? When that is most favorable to us.
The concern for Scheck-Snyder is that when his corn begins to tassel and pollinate in a couple of months, it could be too hot and dry. That would mean a reduction in yields, which also is a reduction in his paycheck.
It's earlier, it's not quite as hot a temperature, so 2 weeks earlier a lot of times makes a world of difference.
You heard Dr. Strain talk about the economic importance of corn. In 2016, Louisiana farmers planted corn on 544,000 acres and had a gross farm value of nearly $320 million. With all the rain we just talked about, it's not just corn farmers who need to get in their fields. For Jeff and Libby Landry in Ouachita Parish, winter, wet or dry, is very busy. They own Landry Vineyards, and as Twila's Tammy Arender tells us, they have to prune acres and acres of grapevines to ensure a great grape come summer.
What happens if you cut too close to the bud, it'll actually, it can damage that node, and that bud won't push out.
Jeff Landry, owner of Louisiana's largest wine-producing vineyard in West Monroe, is teaching Jessa Young about pruning.
You want to get about an inch away from your bud.
Young is a Louisiana Tech student majoring in ag business with a concentration in plant science.
There's a lot of different options for it. Not sure. Maybe run my own greenhouse or my own orchard.
We love to have kids learning about agriculture and experiencing our form of agriculture. It hopefully broadens their horizon, maybe opens some doors to their thinking of what they might do in the future.
Like one like this, even though this one's a little low, you leave like 2 buds on one like that.
Landry is all about grooming the next generation in agriculture. Not only does it ensure we'll have enough food and fiber to feed a growing population, but during his busy pruning season, it helps with his workforce, which he says can be one of his biggest challenges.
You ask any farmer and they'll tell you the same thing. People who are willing to really get out and work in agriculture can be a difficult commodity.
Tough, huh?
Landry needs workers during the winter. He and the staff will hand prune 15 acres of grapevines.
All about the number of buds that we leave. Each bud will produce 2 to 3 bunches of grapes, typically 2. So obviously, too many buds means too much fruit. Too little means too small of a crop.
The pruning process is extremely critical, according to Jeff Landry, because what is taken back during the dormant season actually creates what's called vine balance when this fruit starts to come in.
And he says it's that vine balance that creates a high-quality grape with optimum flavor.
There's a lot that goes into, a lot of hours, a lot of money that goes into getting 1 acre of grapes into production.
In West Monroe, I'm Tammy Arender for This Week in Louisiana Agriculture.
Landry says this harsh winter has not hurt his grape crop. He says the rolling hills of Ouachita Parish actually help usher out the cold weather even when the temps fall below freezing. He says there's usually one more cold snap around Easter, and he's hoping it will be a mild one, since that would be a vulnerable time with new vegetation just starting to come in. The arrival of spring-like weather has been a blessing to Louisiana strawberry farmers. Record cold temperatures in January chilled the crops, but as Twila's Craig Gautreaux shows us, the berries are nearing their peak production.
The arrival of warmer weather in February made a big difference in Louisiana strawberry fields. Snow in December and record cold temperatures in January brought production to a halt, but now the berries are blooming and ripening as they approach peak season.
We've got the springtime weather coming. It seems like these berries have bloomed overnight, and we're starting to see some wonderful berries because of that, and right now our farmers are picking.
At Foss Farms, berry picking usually starts in November and ends in April. This year they are hoping to extend the season.
We did plant some later varieties, and we are hoping that they can stay with us even until Mother's Day, and so we're hoping that that makes up for what we've lost.
What they lost was more than a month's production because of inclement weather. Blooms were burnt and fruit was damaged. It takes at least 21 days after a strawberry flowers to develop into a juicy red piece of fruit.
That's always a tough lick when you're a farmer and you can see, what you could have gotten just to throw it away.
Consumers should have plenty of berries to buy and the satisfaction of knowing they can contribute to the local economy.
It's food that's less traveled, so you get a lot more flavor out of it when it's less traveled. And they're just the best.
You're getting the freshest and most delicious product, especially with Louisiana strawberries, but also you're helping out your fellow neighbor.
With the LSU Ag Center, this is Craig Gautreaux reporting.
According to the LSU Ag Center, last year Louisiana farmers raised 370 acres of strawberries with a farm value of $17 million. Picking strawberries is labor intensive. You have to pick them by hand. For Louisiana farmers, it's nearly impossible to find local people willing to do the job. That's why many of them get workers from other countries through the H-2A program. According to the Department of Labor, the demand for farm labor through the H-2A program is more than double what it was 5 years ago. That's why farmers and business owners attended the annual Mid-South Agricultural Labor Seminar hosted by the Louisiana Farm Bureau. Topics at the seminar included health insurance mandates, H-2B complications, DOT violations, and much more. Throughout the day, farmers and ranchers heard from a variety of experts, including Jake Penley with the LSU Ag Center and attorney Ashley Dees, who specializes in H-2B and H-2A farm labor. Participants ranged from nurserymen to crawfish farmers, all seeking answers and guidance on how to keep up with the constantly changing regulations in foreign labor. Louisiana Farm Bureau Labor Advisory Committee Chairman Randy Bracey says new immigration policies in Washington, D.C. may lead to changes in foreign labor for agriculture.
Now, the H-2C program, is coming out of Good Lace office and everything else. And it has a lot of positives to it, but there are a couple of things about it that's really pretty negative. They want to put a cap on it, and that cap could really be detrimental to the whole thing, because we just don't know what's going to happen once they put an E-Verify and do away with H-2A program, H-2B programs. There's going to be a lot more people that will be going to it. And then on top of the cap, there's the health insurance. They're saying that everybody, all the immigrants who come and gets a visa is going to have a health insurance. And the bad thing about it is, even though the immigrants coming in who gets a visa is going to have to get themselves, it's probably $200 to $300 a person a month, and they're not going to utilize it. That's more than $4,000 or $5,000 cap on it, for they have to meet before they get any more.
House Judiciary Committee Chairman Bob Goodlatte of Virginia introduced the proposed H-2C program in January as part of the Securing America's Future Act. American Farm Bureau President Zippy Duvall says the H-2C program would offer a much brighter future for agriculture. So far, Louisiana Representatives Higgins, Abraham, and Scalise say they are in favor of the bill, along with 92 other representatives. Still to come on Twila, we look at what you're paying for crawfish and why some crawfish farmers are upset about what they get paid by processors. Stay with us.
I now hope they're fighting today.
I hope they are. I'll put a Dorito right here. Come loose.
I got a fish! I got a fish!
Find your place in the country and the lender who can get you there. Find Louisiana Land Bank. Financing for country homes, recreational property, farms and ranches, and agribusiness.
Before you sweeten your morning Joe,
before the icing on the cake, before the sugar hits the shelf. It begins with a family of sugarcane farmers dedicated to growing Louisiana for more than 220 years. The sugarcane growers of Louisiana, making life sweeter, naturally.
Sugarcane, sweet sugarcane.
Louisiana oysters, salty, sweet, and delicious. But have you ever thought about what happens to all those oyster shells? Most of them end up in trash cans and landfills. The Coalition to Restore Coastal Louisiana is changing this with its oyster shell recycling program, and you can help by visiting these participating restaurants. It's a simple and delicious way to restore our coast. The shells will then be used to sustain and rebuild oyster reefs. Remember, once you shuck them, don't just chuck them.
Farming is my way of life. I chose this career, but farming chose me.
A lot of people ask you what you do, and I tell them I'm a farmer.
I'm a cattleman.
I am a fisherman.
I'm a scientist. I'm a steward of the land.
I am a farm woman.
I am Farm Bureau.
I am Farm Bureau.
I am Farm Bureau.
I am Farm Bureau.
I'm a Farm Bureau.
Record low prices are leading some crawfish farmers in South Louisiana to pick up their traps in hopes of having their voices heard. Farmers say they haven't seen prices this low since the 1970s. That's why a group of crawfish farmers in Vermilion Parish called a meeting to discuss alternatives to offset price drops in the crawfish industry. Their concern is that if prices remain low, profits may not be enough to cover costs and offset the low price for rice. Farmers at the meeting discussed the possibility that buyers are offering prices lower than what the market supports. David Savoy, president of Louisiana Crawfish Farmers Association, says both producers and consumers are losing while middlemen profit.
If we can at least, again, minimally stop the price from falling again, because unless the people who are buying our product and using it to sell to the next level, unless they take note and realize that we're at the point of no return here, that there won't be a product to sell. I know some places in St. Martin Parish where they picked up traps today because the guy figured everything and figured he was losing money every day. He picked up all his traps and cutting the water off.
Some farmers in that area agreed to temporarily stop fishing in hopes to help drive prices back up. Savoy says consumers can help by buying their crawfish directly from local farmers. Now let's take a look at what you are paying for crawfish right now this week. It looks like prices for boiled crawfish have flattened a bit from 2 weeks ago, between $3.50 to $4.50 per pound, while live crawfish are much cheaper. In Houma, boiled crawfish were at $3.49 per pound at Seago Seafood Market, where live crawfish are more than $2 cheaper at $1.39. Get your boilers out, folks. In Alexandria, they're $1 more per pound, boiled at $4.49, while live are again $2 cheaper at $2.45. Brookshire's in Shreveport is splitting the difference at $3.99 a pound boiled and $2.29 for those live crawfish. Again, you can find prices for crawfish in your area using the Crawfish app, which can be found for both Apple and Android online. Still to come on Twila, from session to session, the Louisiana legislature is back at the state capitol after just a few days away. Will agriculture be at the center of debate? Stay with us.
Landowners are minding the Louisiana forest for our grandchildren. A place for wildlife, recreation, lumber for homes. It's the right thing to do. Forestry, covering half our state, all of our hearts.
every day across America. Excess food is gathered by a network of good people at local food banks, giving hope to millions of children who struggle with hunger. They've earned their wings, and you can too. Together, we can solve child hunger. Support Feeding America and your local food bank at feedingamerica.org.
This is the moment I knew. His future had no boundaries.
There are some moments only the forest can inspire. Find yours at discovertheforest.org.
The Louisiana legislature is back at the state capitol after a very short break between the special and regular sessions. Lawmakers returned exactly 1 week after the close of the failed special session, where they could not pass any legislation that would fix the coming fiscal cliff. Governor John Bel Edwards addressed representatives and senators at the beginning of this regular session. He challenged legislators to put aside their differences and get the business of the regular session finished by mid-May. That would allow lawmakers to begin and finish another special session at no additional expense to taxpayers.
And no, it's not going to be easy. I never said that it would be. Nobody said it would be easy, but it is necessary. However, the things that we can accomplish over this regular session should be relatively easy, and they will be if we will just engage in a civil discourse. If we will treat one another as colleagues and this body as a collegial body, we can actually find ways to come together and do those things that we agree upon. The hard becomes possible. But if we take the opposite approach, the hard becomes impossible. And our people deserve better than that.
Lieutenant Governor Billy Nungesser is also optimistic. He says the state's tax structure has to be fixed.
I'm hoping to see both sides compromise and fill that gap for the short term. But we absolutely need to relook at our whole tax structure. And until we take off the gloves, sit down and do that as a group of Louisianans, and restructure the tax code, we're going to fight this every few years.
Nungesser also mentioned a constitutional convention, which is a topic that keeps coming up around Louisiana politics lately. Will it come to that? To stay up to date on Louisiana politics and how it's affecting agriculture, follow along with the Louisiana Farm Bureau's Grassroots Government newsletter. It's a weekly newsletter with the latest from the state capitol, and we'll have a link for you to sign up on our website at twilatv.org. That does it for this edition of Twila. Be sure to join us next week when Neil Melanson will show us how research is helping ensure your shrimp look fresher than ever when you buy them. Until then, you can watch all of our stories online at twilatv.org, and be sure to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram. For all of us here at Twila, thank you for watching. We hope to see you again right here next week.